HasLab Omega Prime feels big before you even open the box. Big money, big weight, big expectations. Because this isn't a figure that you casually bought on a whim. You didn't go out one morning and decide, hey, I'm going to bring back Omega Prime. You decided a full year in advance, locked in at the cost, and agreed to wait, with nothing but renders and promises to go on. So, now that Omega Prime has been here for a while, sitting in collectors' hands, the real question isn't was it impressive? It's was the commitment actually worth it? Omega Prime just isn't another Optimus Prime. It's not just another Ultra Magnus, and it's definitely not just another combiner. This is a HasLab project, which means premium pricing, long lead times, and zero safety net. No clearance sales, no early reviews to wait for, no backing out once the campaign closed. Backing Omega Prime meant trusting Hasbro not to just deliver something big, but to deliver something polished, something that justified the money, the wait, and the patience it demanded. That alone puts Omega Prime in a completely different category than most Transformers. When Omega Prime finally shows up, the first impression is strong. The box is massive, the weight is immediately noticeable, and everything about the presentation says event. And honestly, in that moment, it feels like the payoff makes sense. The weight fades a little bit, the money feels justified, but just like with the Dinobots and Menasor previously, the real test doesn't happen on day one, it happens weeks later. When Omega Prime isn't new anymore, when the box is gone, when all the hype's all but disappeared, that's when the real question starts creeping in. How often do I actually interact with this? Where does this realistically live? And does this still feel special once it's part of the room? Omega Prime is not a casual figure. He doesn't simply fit into a display, he redefines it. He takes up space. He dictates shelf layouts instead of adapting to them. And transforming him is something you plan for, not something you casually do while watching TV. At least if you're me. And sometimes that's incredible, sometimes a little intimidating, and sometimes, honestly, it feels like a job. And this is where Omega Prime starts to feel very similar to Menasor, just taken a little bit further. You're not managing a team of cars anymore. Now you're managing two massive leaders in a combined mode that demands respect. If you love centerpiece figures that anchor in an entire display, this is a dream. If you enjoy the frequent handling, quick transformations, or rotating figures in and out, man, this guy feels like a responsibility. From an engineering standpoint, Omega Prime is impressive. The combination works. The individual robots feel dense and substantial. Nothing here feels cheap, hollow, or unfinished. But engineering alone doesn't guarantee enjoyment. This is one of those figures where the idea of owning it can sometimes be stronger than how often you actually engage with it. And that's not a knock, it's just something you have to be honest about at the price point. Now we do need to talk about the elephant in the room, and that's the QC. But not because the thing showed up broken or poorly packaged. The packaging did its job, the boxes arrived intact. The QC issues with Omega Prime feel more like the result of this arriving very early, and in a few places feeling just a bit rushed. The most discussed issue has been the slider joint in the main Optimus Prime component. On some copies, it felt overly tight, it felt rough when moving, or just broke when you moved it immediately, fresh out the box. It wasn't guaranteed that that was going to be your copy, but it does make you slow down and ask whether this should feel that way on a HasLab project. And then there's Ultra Magnus. Multiple people noticed discoloration or mismatched plastic tones, especially compared to what was shown on the promo images in the renders. It's purely cosmetic, but at that price, cosmetic issues stand out a whole lot more. None of it completely broke Omega Prime, but it does create the impression that this shipped a little too soon, without that final layer of refinement people expected from HasLab. And to their credit, Hasbro did replace all of the broken pieces if you contacted them. With the retail figure, tight joints or slight discoloration are annoying, but most collectors shrug and move on. With the HasLab, expectations are completely different. You're not just paying for size or complexity, you're paying for confidence. And when small things feel rushed or underpolished, it chips away at that confidence. Not enough to ruin the figure entirely, but enough to make people think twice next time, and that's worth acknowledging. And just like with the Dinobots and Menasor, the real question isn't simply, is it good? It's what did this replace? Omega Prime really only makes sense if you see it as a destination piece, something you buy instead of many other things, not alongside them. If you expected this to slide into your collection like a normal figure, that's where disappointment can quietly creep in. So, who is Omega Prime for? If you're a fan of robots in disguise, this is for you. If you're a fan of the idea of Omega Prime as much as the figure itself, this is for you. If you're a fan that wanted an updated copy of the original, this is for you. but I hesitate to suggest this to a casual collector. So, after all the dust is settled, was the HasLab Omega Prime worth it? For some collectors, absolutely. But I don't think this was the universal slam dunk that a lot of people had hoped for. Omega Prime isn't bad, it isn't really disappointing, but it is demanding, and it asks a lot more of a collector than the marketing suggests. If you went in understanding that, you probably love it. If you didn't, then Omega Prime is a very expensive way to learn that HasLab isn't an automatic guarantee. So, did you get Omega? Did you like him? Did you go through any of the process? Did you have problems replacing your parts? Did you miss out on him? Go ahead and tell me about it in the comments. While you're there, maybe give me a like, but only if you liked my content, and maybe think about a subscription. And hey, is that a train?
You break my heart.